Welcome to Living Martial Arts with Master Ray Gale, aka the Dark Master. Living Martial Arts discusses and examines the everyday exercise, philosophy, and lifestyle of the martial arts enthusiast. The host talks about his own training, past and present, and he also interviews many martial artists to discover how they continue to live their own martial arts journey. Tune in for top tips on how to get the best out of your martial art. Or perhaps you're thinking of starting a martial art. This podcast offers you an easy way to dip your toe in. Sign up for the newsletter at livingmartialarts.com and get regular updates and training tips direct to your inbox. Follow the Dark Master on Twitter, YouTube, and Instagram at Living Martial Arts.
Okay, hello to everyone, and hello from the Dark Master. Welcome to the Living Martial Arts podcast. Now, I always say that I'm super excited with the guest I've got on, but actually I am super excited with most guests, particularly this guest who's been a massive, massive part of my martial arts journey for such a long time. And like I say, there are certain students who inspire me and keep me doing what I do, and he is certainly one of those people who every time he's turned up in my class, the class brightens up definitely because he's a fantastic inspiration. Most of you who are from Pima will know Mr. Dave Pixton. Very, very passionate about his martial arts, not just Taekwondo, he's done a few other things as well. He's one of those people who always gives 100%. So hello to you, Mr. Pixton. Thank you very much for agreeing to come on this podcast. How are you?
Good morning, Master Gale. Thank you very much for having me. It's a great pleasure to be here. What you said then about how I've had an impact on your journey really means a lot to me. Thank you, and it's a great pleasure to be here. And also as well, I've been following the podcast since it started, and I've really enjoyed listening to you and all of your guests. So I'm really, really happy to be here. So.
Oh, excellent. Well, I'm sure that people are going to love this. So I've actually spoken to a few people, and I said, "Oh, I've got Mr. Pixton coming on," and they're really excited about it. No, tell me when. You're more than welcome, and I do mean that. I think as an instructor, students teach us something about ourselves. If we don't feel that they've been teaching us something, then we haven't been teaching properly, and we haven't been paying attention to them. It's been all about us, and it's never all about us.
Correct.
It's a two-way process. So
absolutely,
it's great.
Yes, sir.
Well, I'm gonna start as I always start, which is probably the biggest question. And as I said before on many podcasts, I'm sure I'll say it again. This first question could take hours, particularly with yourself, because you've been in martial arts for most of your life, actually, a big, huge part of your life. You started as a young lad, and it's really telling us about your martial arts journey and where you've been, what you're doing now, and perhaps maybe what you're going to do in the future. But I don't know. We may have to integrate that with some of the other questions.
Indeed,
but tell us a bit about that.
Okay. So my martial arts journey has been going on for as long as I can remember. I don't remember life without doing martial arts, and I'm 41 this year. My original beginnings to martial arts actually started when I was really, really young. Before Taekwondo, I actually did judo, and it was this is a funny story that I hope your listeners will get a bit of a kick out of, and it also shows the difference between martial arts today and what they were back then. So I started off doing judo when I was probably about 4 or 5, and I don't really remember any of the detail, save this one. I used to suffer from nosebleeds quite a bit. And I did judo because my sister did it, and we both did it for a bit. And my mum actually did a bit of judo back in the day when she was younger as well. And so she took us along to judo. And the sensei said, and he must have been joking, but obviously as a child, you don't have the ability to kind of navigate these turns of praise. And he said, if I had another nosebleed, he was going to cut my head off. And that was it. I never wanted to go back to judo ever again. So I had what could have potentially been quite a traumatic start to my martial arts journey, but that didn't put me off. I joined a class set up by yourself and Master O just down the street from me in 1988. And at that time, it was a very progressive thing because it was, from what I understand, one of the very first classes set up very specifically just for juniors. So some of your other guests have alluded to sort of what martial arts was like when they started, and they might have been in their kind of late teens, early 20s, and influenced by things like, the need for personal development, or the films of Bruce Lee, or this, that, and the other. I started Taekwondo because Matthew Emanuel did it, and he lived 2 doors down. And there was a couple of other kids in my neighbourhood did it. So I just sort of went to that class, and it was really good. I remember it was a lot of games. Really, really good for kids. And then I remember yourself and Master O, you must have been growing your other schools and things at the time, but you're also really busy with your competitions and a lot of other stuff. And you handed the school over to another instructor who sadly had an accident, and he couldn't continue the school. And it was a quick case of either, look, you got to kind of hang up your dobok, or you go and train with the adults. And again, that was, I would have been about a 7th cup at the time. And that was a really eye-opening experience. And I've written about this before in essays and things, being standing right at the very, very back of the class as a kind of 8-9-year-old kid, looking at the front to the kind of black belts who I thought were the hardest people I'd ever seen in my life. It was a wonderful, terribly frightening, very intimidating, but actually a great experience. And, actually I've got a massive debt of thanks to give actually to my mum and dad, who religiously took me week in, week out, despite how much of a kid I was and didn't, what kids want to do. Well, I just kept going because mum and dad took me. And, that was the kind of start of my journey. And I did a few kind of competitions and things, a few gradings. I got my black belt in 1994. My second dan in 1999, I think. But it was around about that time that, and I'm sure we'll talk about this a lot, we'll come back to this quite a lot as we go. I met a chap called Oliver Folarin, a chap called Ollie, and I started doing cross training, as we called it, back then.
I've met Ollie.
So that's where my passion and interest for martial arts outside of Taekwondo sort of was awoken and developed a bit.
Sorry, I don't want to stop your flow. I don't want to stop your flow there, but it's interesting. What you were saying regards coming from the junior class to the senior class, because myself and Master O running the class at the time saw you, even though you were quite young. You seemed to have. I mean, whether it was a facade, I don't know, but you seem to have a very mature head. Much more so than the other kids, and you seem to make that transition a lot easier than some of the other children. Now, whether that was fear or nerves or whatever, I don't know. But it certainly seemed that you sort of, you seem to sort of fit right in, to be honest, where a lot of the kids found it quite difficult. A few of the kids that came in found it quite difficult. But I also think that, you seem to have quite a good work ethic very early on in martial arts. As you mentioned, again, we used to play a lot of games, and most of the time when we used to come into the class, some of the kids were there and they played tag and touch and whatever and run around, and you'd be in the corner practicing your punches or your kicks or whatever. And you did seem to be quite different then. I don't know if you can look back at your former self, was that the case? I don't know.
Do you know what, to be perfectly frank, so I don't really remember in that much detail doing that. One of the things I would say is that actually I've always been really quite shy. And I find it sometimes difficult to sort of, kind of take that first step to joining in with the other kids or this, that, and the other. And it might have been that, I maybe struggled to join in or was nervous about talking to the other kids or something. And therefore I almost had to have something to do. So I would practice. Sorry, go on, second.
No, I was going to say, I can relate to that because I often say to people, I'm really actually quite shy, and people go, really? I said, the fact that I stand up and do some of the things that I do within our association, I've always found it very, very difficult, and I've always had to take a deep breath before I've done something and gone, right, and sort of try to big myself up to say, yeah, you can do this, you can do this. And even with from time to time speaking in public, and even now I do get nervous about doing that. But sorry, go on.
No. I think that's right. I mean, people see people like yourself, people like me, leading a class and doing various things, and an assumption is made about what that person must be like without a kind of dobok on or something, or a uniform on. And actually, I think that's probably something lots and lots of people can relate to, actually, about how they are when they lead a class versus how they are outside of class. And that's definitely one of the benefits, or one of the tools that martial arts, the experience of martial arts has given me, probably yourself, and certainly many other people, is it's a kind of an ability to cope with difficult situations that require confidence. It doesn't give you necessarily confidence, but it gives you some tools to help work with that, I think.
Yeah, that's a great way to put it. So, anyways, you were saying that you met your friend Ollie, who gave you that passion, that spark. So perhaps you can continue with that.
Oh yeah, of course. Again, it's a great story. I love telling this story, and if anyone has ever sort of hung out with me for any period of time and talked martial arts, we won't get far without a story about Ollie. He is without a doubt. I mean, I've met so many inspirational people through martial arts, starting with yourself, actually, sir.
Thank you.
One of the Ollie was his opening gambit to me was, do you want to get together and have a fight? And that was, I didn't really know him. I just kind of did a bit of tournament training with him at a class in Wootton Bassett. And he said, do you want to get together and have a fight? And we booked a squash court, and I had the most almighty kicking of my young life. But that's one of the things I love about martial arts, and doing it with the right people, is that, you feel really great about getting beaten up by someone, because they're not doing it with any malicious intent. It was so good, and that but basically that opened my eyes to the world outside of Taekwondo, and that's something that I think some people they're much more savvy about now, because we have the internet and the UFC and all these other things. But this was sort of back towards the end of the 90s, when these sort of events weren't massive and weren't well publicized. And one of the things that Ollie taught me was sort of about taking other martial arts and finding the things you like and the things that work for you, and sort of incorporating them into your style, making your style what it is. I mean, I've always sort of said that I've been a practitioner of martial arts. It just so happens that Taekwondo is my best subject. But not long after that, I trained very intensely with Ollie for quite a few years. But that was about the time when we switched over, and your organisation, the Professional Unification of Martial Arts, was formed. We started working closely with some ITF groups, some international sort of Taekwondo groups. And I was very privileged to represent Team UK at some international world championships. I fought on the first ever UK team in South Korea with a fairly decent result, and that was pretty good. I've also been able to, part of the journey has been amazing, really. I've got to see lots of sports centres around the world. Met lots of amazing people. And it was during that time also I started to work with yourself on when we would do our trips to Ghana. So you've mentioned that on your podcast before, but you've been to Ghana something like 10 times, I think.
Yes, that's right.
Developing martial arts in West Africa and sort of helping them, and it's been a real privilege to be able to help you and be part of that journey. And in the background to that, I just done so much training. I was always training. I mean, we talk about the journey, and that's really what I was focused on a lot, was just I'm happiest when I'm training, I suppose. And I was privileged enough to work as an assistant instructor to yourself, and I taught at Yate for quite a long time. I was again lucky enough to help sort of with the Puma Taekwondo summer camps, and sort of representing as an instructor there as well, and been part of the coaching squad as well for the Puma Taekwondo team. So my martial arts journey has been really, really intense, actually. The story that people often tell from when they are juniors, they'll go through a period. I think one of your other guests mentioned this, actually, that they get to a point in their life where if they can stick it out, they'll stay with it forever. So I was sort of started when I was Taekwondo when I was 7. And I got to those kind of teenage sort of years where people tend to drift away into education or jobs, I don't know whether I was lucky or not. I drifted away into nothing. Wasn't brilliant. I wasn't brilliant at school. Didn't have massive direction outside into other parts of my life. And actually, one of the things that Taekwondo did for a directionless youth was kind of kept me on the straight and narrow, which is something that was really good. having those role models like yourself and Master O and the other kind of leaders that I was able to access, Master Black, those kind of guys. Really meant that I was able to focus on something, and that is a lesson and experience that will stay with me forever.
Yes, yeah. Well,
sorry, I've kind of wandered all over the place.
No.
Really answered your question.
Well, no, it's brilliant because I mean, I can relate to so many of the things you said there. You're talking about meeting sort of inspirational people, and getting beaten up by them, or get the. I remember fighting. He was a professional kickboxer. He was world champion at the time, a guy called Tommy Williams. Unfortunately, he passed away. I think he had a car accident in the US. He was an American guy. And I remember getting a ring fight with him and getting beaten up, solely beaten up. I was just glad to get out alive, to be honest. But he was a real gentleman. And what he taught me was that you could beat somebody. I mean, he had the ability to knock me out and do all sorts of things to me, and he didn't do it. He realised I was quite inexperienced when I did that, and he took his time with me, and just won the fight, and that was it. I was forever in his debt for that. And I think for me that sort of, I don't know, that just that compassion really said a lot about him. And I've heard a lot about him from different people, even some people in America who said that what a great guy he was, and what a nice guy, And I would have loved to have, had him on something like this and just talked to him about that.
Yeah.
But anyway, lots of people like that. But within your journey, I mean, you mentioned lots of things there, and you mentioned your passion, and you met your friend Ollie, and so on. You went through that martial arts journey. But I think one thing that people say about you is you're very humble about your martial arts ability. You're a very skillful martial artist, and I also like your ability to talk to all kinds of levels, children, adults, some who are not particularly that skilled, and make them feel good. Now, I don't know whether this sounds a bit. Well, you do, and a lot of people have said that about you, is that they love training with you because you always treat them well, and you always, even though your sessions are extra hard. I remember my Yate students say, "Oh, we got Mr. Pixton next week," but they always loved the session, and the fact that you treated them nice, even though it was a tough session, it was a hard session, you demanded a lot. You treated them really nice, and I don't know whether that was something that you did consciously, or whether it was just something you developed.
I think that's quite a salient point that you make there, actually, sir, because I hold the values of Taekwondo very closely, and especially that of kind of courtesy and to be sort of polite to people. It is a trait of common decency to be kind, and for all those people that kind of thought some of my teaching was a bit harsh, it was because I cared. I really wanted to get the best out of people, and that's actually one of the life lessons that I've learned as a teacher, is that you said it yourself about learning something from your students. I've been able to, over the years, from listening to students, I think I've definitely adapted my style of teaching to be as inclusive as possible. I think some of the problem is you're never going to please everyone.
Yeah.
So I love training hard. I love training hard. I used to train judo, and the judo school I trained at was all black belts, and Ollie took me there as a white belt, and he just threw me in, and as was his way, he just threw me in, and he said, "Look, Dave, he's white belt. He's never done it before, but he's done some training with me, so don't go easy on him." And I remember fighting everybody really hard and coming out of it, and they would say to me, "Look, Dave, they were quite candid. They said, 'Look, you've been quite roughed up. Are you all right with this?' And I said, 'Look, if I don't get bashed up, I'm asking for my money back.'" And
Yeah.
and that was the sort of attitude that I took into a lot of training. But I realized that wasn't everybody's goal and everybody's motivation. And by listening to people and finding out, it's really, listening is really important, and trying to understand what people are trying to get from their martial arts experience is really, really important, and that helps you kind of give back to them as a teacher, I think, just by listening and sort of trying to treat them in a way that helps them achieve their goals, but also maybe in a way that they didn't necessarily think possible. I mean, it's been really nice to see people achieve things when they say, "I didn't think I could do that." And you say, well, you would have got there eventually. Maybe I just helped you along your journey a little bit by giving you the sort of right, the right sort of prodding in the right direction at the right time, I think.
Sure, yeah. I know that's some good points there. Well, no, thank you for that. Thank you for that sharing. Some of your journey quite quickly, really. And as I said, I know it can go on. Well, yeah, it can go on for a long time. We can use that, spend hours talking about it. But I'm going to sort of come up to date, really, with your present day sort of martial arts journey, and ask you how you're living that at the moment. And I know that you've had some big events in your life recently. Perhaps you can share that with our audience.
So just within the last 6 weeks, I've become a father for a second time. So I'm very lucky to have two. I've got a young family, 2 young boys, and they make fitting martial arts in the formal sense into everyday life. I say quite difficult. It's not their fault. They don't make much, their children. They don't know anything. But actually, the question around kind of fitting martial arts into your day-to-day life as a busy dad who works a hard job, it makes life hard. And I think this is a conundrum that lots and lots of people can relate to, actually. Life is very busy. And one of the other guests sort of mentioned about how people want things instantly these days. And I think through the martial arts training that we've done, it sort of instills in you just that kind of just be patient and be sort of grateful for the things that you've got and the opportunities that you've got. And this is something that I think a lot of people don't actually realize, is the huge opportunities that are there, like on their front door, and they don't take them. Like people that train with people like yourselves, one of the most senior taekwondo exponents in the country, and for a lot of people, you're right on their doorstep, and like when we went to Ghana, here's a good example. People would come from other countries in, bus journeys that would take days over sort of some really challenging conditions, just to come and train with us for 40 minutes. And in our very comfortable life and lifestyle, it's very easy to make excuses and do things like that. So I mean, one of the things that I try and do in terms of my martial arts in my everyday life is just maintain physical fitness, trying to maintain health, strength, fitness, mobility and flexibility where I can. I mean, I'm fortunate enough to have a lifetime of martial art technique backed up, so that I kind of got that. I've got a fairly decent capital in that respect. But like your your fitness and your health can fade quite quickly if you don't pay attention to it, and particularly if you don't have a great diet, or you don't get much sleep, or you have a lot of stress in your life. So having the opportunity to kind of take half an hour a day, it's 2% of your day, that's all it is, to kind of dedicate some time to trying to stay as fit as you can without breaking yourself. And I mean, that's the thing though, with some of the attitude I've got. If I'm doing 30 minutes of exercise on a day, I don't just want to have 30 minutes of moderate exercise. I want to absolutely beast myself in that 30 minutes. And I don't know if that attitude and that approach will ever, I thought, as I get older, that will subside, but it hasn't. So I'm not sure. But also as well, like in terms of sort of fitting martial arts into your everyday life, I made a few notes about this, and I thought about how we move, how we touch things, how we step, how we move our body, how we lift, how we lower, bend, turn, stretch. Well, I mean, I still turn off lights with my feet.
Yes.
Lights, like this is common amongst martial artists to turn off light switches by a turning kick. Sometimes if I'm in the kitchen doing something in between tasks, instead of walking normally, I'll do some side steps, or I'll do some duck walks, or whatever. There's always there's always an opportunity there where you find it, and that is in lieu of being able to just go to class and just bang out hard training, which actually in the current situation is very hard. And in fact impossible for a lot of people at the moment. So you've got to make opportunities where you can. In terms of sort of what the future is going to hold in respect of training, I really want to develop some more of my mixed martial arts skills. I'm really keen on my wrestling, and obviously Brazilian jiu-jitsu and my judo as well. So I want to try and bulk up some of my mixed martial arts game as well. I think that's I think that sort of stuff I find comes full circle as well. When I was doing a lot of taekwondo, and I went off and did cross training, and it made my taekwondo better. It made my understanding of things so much better as well. So that's what I'm hoping to do when things open up a bit more and we're allowed to do a bit more of that. So.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to sort of recap on some of the things you said there, because there are some golden nuggets in there that I love, and I've used myself. So anybody listening to this, talking about fitting martial arts into your everyday life, and I've moved house recently, but I used to have a duck walk across the lounge day, where I used to come down the stairs, and every time I came down the stairs and went across the lounge, I had to do a duck walk there and back if I went back up the stairs. And I tried to say to people that don't take extra time. Your martial arts is every day. It's what you do. If you pick up something, pick it up in a stance, or if you're brushing your teeth, brush your teeth in a sitting stance, or a horse stance, as for other arts and so on. But there's so much you can actually do in your everyday life that will help you with your training, and help you keep, as you say, physically fit, strong. While you're going through. One of my classics that my students will remember, I said, if you're making a cup of tea, put the kettle on, and then standing a bending stance until it boils. And the next time you do it, use the other leg.
do you know what? Making cups of tea, one of my favourite pastimes. Is there's an opportunity there. There's so many. I've developed so many skills while waiting for a kettle to boil. It's a really good one. But also as well, actually, something that one of your Mr. Woodhouse said about the practice of martial art technique in an environment that isn't a class is actually of quite a lot of importance. And I tell you, try turning the lights on with a turning kick when you're wearing your jeans. It's not as easy as all that. Try to sort of doing some particular movements in sort of your everyday clothes, because he was talking about the merits of sort of everyday self-defense and real self-defense and things like that. And actually that gives you not definitely no substitute for some dedicated training, but really an understanding of the limitations of day-to-day living and having to defend yourself as well, actually.
Yeah, definitely. Well, so I mean, those people that are listening to this, just take that on board, because the amount of people that say, "Oh, I don't have time to do this." Well, you can fit it in if you think about it. You can fit lots of things into your life if you want to, and martial arts definitely is one of them. So many different things you can do. Well, so sort of moving on from there, and you have answered this to a certain degree, but I mean, I don't know whether you want to add anything to this. Is really what you feel the main benefits of martial arts, as your journey has been to you so far. And I know, as I said, you've sort of alluded to some of the things, but I don't know if there's anything you want to add to that.
Oh, there are actually tons. I made a short list actually,
Go for it.
of this in preparation, but it turned into quite a long list, and that sort of goes to show the merits of martial arts. I mean, one of the things is actually compared to most blokes of my age, and this is just something that's cool. Okay, and that's all it is. I just think this is cool. I wrote it as I have a weaponized body. That is a benefit of martial arts. Okay, I can do all the cool stuff. I was watching a movie of Jean-Claude Van Damme. He's one of my sort of favorite guilty pleasures, and I was watching all the stuff he was doing on the movies. I thought, I can do all of that. I can do all of that. I can even do the noises. Okay, and compared to sort of in inverted commas regular people, I can do all of the cool stuff. And, that's a benefit. It makes you feel happy. But some of the things, I've seen so much of the world and met so many interesting and good people. I've had the opportunity. I mean, we could do a session, sir, just talking about stories from Ghana. Because just those stories alone, teaching the 400 police recruits on the parade ground, teaching the special forces, I was just in my head going over those stories. It's really, really good fun. I've been taught, I've had the opportunity to be taught by some of the most amazing people who I never would have met, and the lessons they've given me, as well as kind of my my martial arts skills. They've shown me kind of humility and dignity and respect, and been such inspirational role models. And I think actually without martial arts, because people see people like us, and we sort of talked about this earlier. People see guys like us leading the class as these invincible men with, and invincible women who can, they can deal with whatever life throws at them, and you wouldn't even know it. And one of the things actually it gives you is a type of enhancement to your natural fortitude, and being a kind of my body has benefited from hard physical training, and you can see that. And without that, I'm not too sure what I would be. I have this ability to apply myself in a very dedicated and strong way when I really, really need to. I can really dig deep, because I've had that experience of having to do that, to get where I wanted to be, and actually it's given me a kind of, it's not the most helpful description, but an attitude and an approach that has made the most of what I had. And I think it makes you, it just give the benefit it's given me. It's made me a better person in so many ways. It's taken that kind of foundation piece of clay or whatever you call it, and it's helped make me into something better. But the last bit actually that I had on my list of main benefit of martial arts, apart from the great friends that I've made, cool stories. We've got so many cool stories that martial arts has given me, and again, you get this whenever you sort of chew the fat with martial art people. You get so many fun stories come out of it, and that's whenever I talk martial arts, I always do it with a smile on my face, always, because when you think about the fun things that you did together, and you might not think it's fun at the time. I remember some of the training I would done, and the injuries and the things that you've inflicted upon yourself. No one's done it to you really. Half the time you've done it to yourself as well. But they make such great stories as well. So the list of benefits goes on and on and on.
Well, I'll tell you what, we're going to have to come back and do it was actually, it's been in my mind at some point to do a podcast about Ghana. I'm going to try and get Mr. Mahadi as well, who's the Ghana instructor, on this podcast to talk about that to people. So we'll hopefully sort that. The other thing is that I'd like to rubber stamp what you said about doing cool things, because I'm quite proud of that myself. You see, and as a martial artist, I do like to show off a little bit as well. So, when I pick up my youngest from school and she says, my dad can do handstands, my dad can do cartwheels, I'm just there with a big grin on my face, and and all the other kids going, oh, will he do it for us? Will he do it for us? Of course he will. So, yeah. So that's quite good as well. And I remember going to where was I? Oh, I think it was a trampoline park, and my kids, just as a matter of thing, they just said, Dad's going to join in. It was a party or something like that, and all the other parents who were quite a lot younger than me, maybe 20 years younger, didn't want to do it. So they were looking at me thinking, silly old fool.
Speaking of cool stories, here's one of my favourite cool stories about you, actually, sir, was we were at an international instructors convention, and they asked the seniors to lead press-up drills. And and I remember you did some sort of jumping push-up that no one else could do, and that was absolutely brilliant. Everyone else had their variations, and you did one, and no one else could do it, and that was I can't remember.
Oh,
remember
yes,
if I was watching it or if I was there or something like that. But I remember seeing it, thinking, yeah, spot on.
Oh, thank you for that.
Stay with me. It's a good story.
I do remember that. Well, my last question of this one, and I hope we can do a part 2 on this, because I've got so much to talk to you about. But yes, it was really about meditation and breath work. Now, I suppose in Western, for want of a better word, Western martial arts, you don't see a lot of meditation and breath work, although obviously breath work is incorporated in the exercises and the movements that we do. Now, I've started doing specifically a little bit of meditation, a little bit of breath work. In fact, I've been researching it quite a lot in the last sort of couple of years. I've tried different forms of breath work. Meditation has been tough for me because although I'm quite shy, I'm actually quite a hyper person. I find it difficult to sit still for any length of time. But I am getting better at it, and it is doing me quite a lot of good as well. I believe it is anyway. The breath work is an interesting one because I'm trying to, with the breath work, I'm trying to monitor how I sleep. And I've got one of these rings that tell me about my heart rate variability and my temperature while I'm sleeping, and my resting heart rate while I sleep. Now, the breath work certainly seems to be helping. I am sleeping a lot better. My sleep efficiency is getting better. So I'm not going to stop the breath work. But my question is whether you've ever explored any meditation or breath work really within your martial arts.
Well, sir, just picking up on what you were saying about sleep, given my current circumstances, anything that can give me some more sleep would be wonderful. This is an interesting question, I think, and something that would, anyone who's thinking of taking up martial arts or practicing martial arts would really. We don't teach this very much, and I don't think it's a subject that is understood or appreciated very well. The ability to achieve calm through a calming practice, which is sort of how I understand meditation to be. The thing you're saying about breath work is obviously you have to breathe to stay alive, and
yes.
but actually how you breathe during exercise is something that I find quite interesting. And if you've ever done any sessions with Nick Evans, like he gets us sometimes doing sessions where you change your breathing pattern to impact your ability to move and things like that. It's quite interesting. Problem is, I don't really know much about it. It's just that I find it,
Yeah.
knowing what you don't know is sort of part of the path to learning, I think, and understanding. Meditation is an interesting one. I've dabbled in bits and pieces to do with meditation, but I don't think, being perfectly candid, I haven't really found anything that works for me in like a traditional sense. And actually, sure. I think. As far as we talk about kind of cool stories, this is not such a cool story, but I dabbled in a bit of mindfulness and a bit of sort of a bit of Buddhist meditation. And
Sure.
Being completely honest, it actually awoke something rather dark in me, and I sort of figured that probably wasn't the right thing for me to do. So one of the things I find actually in terms of achieving calm or sort of using something to modify mood, for me it's music, and I guess a lot of people get that. So a bit like yourself, being able to kind of sit down in the kind of sort of crossed leg Zen position and sort of achieve inner harmony and ask myself those questions about, what gets wet the more it dries and things like that. I can't do stuff like that. But if I'm looking to adjust my mood or change a feeling or something like that, then for me, music is a way that I would deal with that. So I hope that answers your question. It's something that, like I said, I don't really. I think I understand the importance of it, but I'm yet to find my way with it, I think.
Sure. Yeah, I think. I mean, for me, I'm hoping to introduce small bits of breathwork into my classes because I've been studying it for some time. I need to know what I'm talking about before I introduce it. And although I've been doing it for a long time, I've been trying different types of breathwork. I've been trying to find some breathwork that's going to be valuable, that's easy to teach. And quick to teach and valuable for most people. And there are a few systems out there. I've just invested in one system which has cost me just a little bit, not a great deal, which I'm exploring at the moment. But I've done Wim Hof breathing alongside some cold treatment. I'm actually getting a barrel to do some ice baths.
That is fantastic.
Somebody's actually got one for me, so it's been delivered in the next few days. So I'm going to have a try ice baths, which is
good for you.
Amazing for me. For me.
Yeah, well, I've heard so many good things about that. I'm just too much of a wuss. I just like a hot shower. But yeah.
No, I'm just going to say, if anybody had told me that, 30 years ago, that I'd be getting into an ice bath, I'd say, yeah, you're right. There's no way you get me into that. But I've sort of, I am enjoying that type of thing, and I'm doing that Wim Hof breathing along with my ice baths, which I'm finding very beneficial. And my hopefully it's making my immune system a lot stronger.
Indeed.
But yeah. Trying to find some breath work that I can use in my classes is going to be quite useful for me. So yeah.
Yeah, well, I sincerely hope that is comes across some real benefit to your students, because I think that is definitely something that gets overlooked. Absolutely.
Excellent. Well, listen, we've sort of come to the end of this one. I'm hoping that we're going to do a part two. I'd just like to say that once again that you're a real inspiration to me and to many others. I don't think you probably realise how much of an inspiration you are to so many people. Whenever we talk about people within Taekwondo who have made a difference, your name always comes up. So I just want to thank you so much for being part of my journey. I want to wish you all the best in your continued journey, and also with your young family.
Thank you very much.
I'm sure you're going to be a fantastic dad, and the as a dad of two older boys, men now. Just enjoy the journey. It's fantastic, and I've got two girls as well, so I've got the full set, and still enjoying them. And I'm getting the old, Daddy, you're so old now in my thinking, the way I'm thinking. But I think we're supposed to. I think that's supposed to happen. Actually, that's part of being a parent is telling kids telling you you're too ancient.
Well, sometimes we say it's not the age, it's the mileage. So
yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
But I'd like to thank you for that, and hopefully. Anybody wants to, if you want anyone to connect with you, I'm sure people know you anyway within our Puma organisation. We'll put that in the show notes. But hopefully we'll see you again soon. Have a great time, and we'll catch up again soon.
Thank you very much for having me, Master Go. It's a real pleasure to be part of your podcast. Thank you.
Thank you.